The new album, American Soldier, is a concept album about war from the perspective of the soldiers. How did this concept come up?
Well, it started with a conversation I had with my dad, who was a war veteran of Korea and Vietnam. And I grew up in a military family, but in our family, as in many military families, you just don't talk about stuff, you know, especially what Dad did in the war, you know. And even though I asked him about it, you know, repeatedly growing up, he was always rather reluctant to talk about it, and really didn't talk about it until recently. And it was 2006, we were touring, and I was visiting him in Oklahoma where he lives. And just kind of out of the blue, he started talking about Korea and what happened to him there. And I stopped him. I said, Dad, you know, wait a minute, I've been waiting all my life to hear these stories. Let me grab my video camera. So I grabbed my video camera, just like the one being used right now, and set it up on the table and recorded the conversation. And that really was the beginning of the project for me. It's what really got me thinking about not just his story, but all soldier stories. You know, what is it? What's it like? What do you do? How do you do it? And how do you live through it? You know, try to get the soldier's perspective and not the Hollywood kind of spin. You know, the portrayal of the soldier as this sort of robot. You know,
Rambo.
Yeah, or just an inhuman sort of armored tank kind of person. You know. Really, soldiers are just like you and me. You know, they're people. You know, they live, they breathe, they bleed. And everyone I talked to about 300 different soldiers from as far back as World War II all the way up to the present conflicts that we're involved with. And they all had very unique perspectives. So we recorded all these interviews and then went through them all, kind of found a lot of the commonalities in the stories, and then composed music around the stories to help kind of give it a dramatic twist. So, long answer, sorry.
No. There's been some talk about Operation Mindcrime going to Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard anything about that, or is there?
Oh yeah.
Anything to talk about on that yet, or is it still in the?
Well, you know, over the years, Mindcrime has had a lot of attention paid to it from a lot of different people. You know, there's been talk of taking it to making a film out of it. You know, that's happened many times. And you know, people always want to change it. You know, they always want to add their interpretation of the story. You know, they want to change the characters around, change their names, change the location of the story. And we've always said no. You know, not interested in doing that. But Adam Pascal is a very well-known Broadway talent, and starred in Rent in Manhattan for quite a while. And he's a Queensryche fan and a Mindcrime fan, and he wants to bring it to Broadway. So he's been working with a lot of investment people to do that. You know, and right now, at this stage of the game, it looks like it might happen.
Any plans for part 3?
No.
No. Okay.
It was always meant for 2, you know, part 1 and 2. Just took us a little longer to put out 2 than originally planned.
I've got a couple of questions from fans from Facebook. James would like to know, do you guys consider yourselves from Prague?
Oh, the old labeled band question. No. You know, labels and boxes are for people with no imagination. You know, you can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. You know, the only thing holding you back is your own ability to imagine. Why put yourself in a little tiny box and put a little headline over it and say, "This is what I am." You know, especially when you're creating art and music. Why would you do that? You know, the old days. You know, and I'm speaking of recent old days, like especially the 90s. The business side of the industry just destroyed it. You know, I mean, God, they put everything in little tiny boxes and sold it, 17 different versions of rock music, to try to appeal to different people, It's all very well and good when you're selling widgets, but, when you're making music and creating stuff, you don't think of those terms. You don't think of terms of music being in the same category as a football game, And so many of the people that are in the business think that way because that's the way American business thinks. Competition, sporting events, that art isn't a sporting event.
Did anything ever come about of the Voices of Metal project, which was supposedly you, Rob Halford, and Bruce Dickinson?
Oh, it's the first time I've ever heard a reference like that. No, it never was a project. It was actually a dinner conversation.
But nothing ever got recorded or worked out?
No, it was actually a dinner conversation in an Italian restaurant. Everybody drinking, telling road stories, having a great day off, and the next day it showed up in the press that we were doing this project, and this is what it was called, and this is what it was about. But I get asked that question in every interview.
I bet.
Do you have a top favorite, or I know it's hard to pick a favorite, but do you have any particular influences that you would say that you... Of singing, music, just music?
I like people that, artists that, it's weird with Western music. It's fairly limited in what it can do, limited to the 12-tone scale. So it's amazing that there is so much variance in Western music, really, considering its limitations. But, I like a lot of different stuff. I don't listen a lot to music now because I'm usually so busy, writing music, so it's not something I do. It's like a plumber's pipes, You don't go home and fix your sink, it just sits there and leaks. Same with music, you go home, you don't want to hear any music because you've been submersed in it all day, or on a tour, you're still hearing the music from when you finished your last show the next day, in your head. But I like a lot of different things, a lot of different styles of music, and everything from, Motown stuff to jazz to classical to all the different rock genres.
Honestly, that about wraps up the questions for the day.
Great. That's my
thank you for
life.
your time.
My 28-year career and
Yeah, that's it. 7 questions. Nicely done.
7.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.